Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited return of our guy, Jimmy Harte, ladies and gentlemen.
What is
Welcome
up,
back,
people?
Jimmy. Welcome back.
Kevin, how are you? If I sound a little off today, I think I may have a cold coming on. But that's okay. I'm here. I'm ready to go.
You know, all you folks down in Florida, when you leave Florida, you always get sick, and then people go to Florida and leave, they always get sick.
This traveling is this tough duty, man.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that's the key, the traveling. All right, well, I guarantee, ladies and gentlemen, this is our session. I'm going, let's see, 80. We're close to 80. And you started it all, Jim. Nice going.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for picking it up and making it real.
Okay. Well, you know that I know that you know. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the United States National High School Champions League starting 11 or thereabouts with my friend and our mentor, Jimmy Harte, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy, this is all you, baby. You've been rehearsing, and now you're back and have at it.
Okay, I will. So, happy to be back. Happy to be talking about high school soccer. I have learned some things on my travels. So we just went to Alaska, Kevin, and it was an unbelievable trip. I heavily recommend this to anybody. It's impossible for me to describe what I saw. I can try, but it would fall short. It is nature. It is vast. It is gigantic mountains, moose, bear, whales. I mean, it's everything you can imagine. It's really worth going. But the other thing I discovered on my trip is that guess what? Alaska has is a vibrant high school soccer scene.
Cut it
I
out.
was, I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. And today, I'm going to tell you about three schools, one from Ketchikan, Alaska, which is all the way down in the bottom of the panhandle. It's probably the farthest away from the rest of Alaska, closest to the US. Okay, and then I'm going to tell you about a team in the capital city of Juneau, and then I'm going to tell you about the greatest team in Alaska called Diamond High School from Anchorage, the state champion, ranked number one in Alaska and ranked number 31 in the nation. 31 in the nation. Think about that. The, there's a team up there playing at a level to get that kind of recognition. But what I think is so interesting about it is the sacrifices that these schools make to play high school soccer. And when I tell you what I'm about to tell you, you're just going to think I'm making it up. You're not going to believe it. So let's start with Ketchikan, Alaska. Okay, Ketchikan. They were in this. There's two classifications in Alaska, class one and class two. Class one is for bigger schools, class two for smaller. Ketchikan's a class two school. Ketchikan went all the way to the state final last year. They lost the state final 1-0 in an overtime game to Saldanta, which is a team up near where most of the soccer takes place in Alaska, which is Anchorage. But what I want to tell you about Ketchikan, they played a 10-game season. Their final record was 6-3-1. The reason they play such a short season is because playing a game is such an ordeal for these teams. You cannot believe it. You cannot believe what an ordeal it is. They took one road trip, and in that road trip, they played three games. The road trip was to Anchorage. So, Kevin, listen to this.
All right.
Their options to get to Anchorage were either a 5 hour flight, which cost $650 a person on Alaska Airlines, or a 38-hour drive, which includes a 790-mile ferry ride up the inside passage of Alaska, and then get off the ferry and then drive through through lots of rugged terrain to get all the way up to Anchorage. Now, I have been unable to determine which way they went, but I think they took the plane. And here's why I think that. To play high school soccer in Alaska, and so let's just say that Ketchikan's trip to Anchorage is story number one, okay? And Ketchikan High School is story number one. Story number two is the sacrifice that these teams make just to play and just to have road games. So I learned that the budget for the Ketchikan High School soccer team, the travel budget, is $100,000. and they just play the one road trip. Now if they make it to the state, which they did, they had to go back up to Anchorage to play in the state tournament. So they ended up going twice to Anchorage, once for their road trip and then once for the state tournament. So they had to make this journey two times. It's very difficult for them to get games because people have to make that trip down to Ketchikan. Now listen to their schedule. Their first game was against a team, I'm not making this up, called North Pole. There is a city near Anchorage called North Pole, Alaska. Well, North Pole made the trip down to Ketchikan, and they played two games, one day, one the next day. Then they went on their road trip up to Anchorage. Then a school called Homer. There's a city in Alaska called Homer, Alaska, which is pretty far. I mean, this had to be quite a road trip for Homer to make down to Ketchikan. They came down and played their two games, and then it was time for the state tournament. So Ketchikan's season involved North Pole coming to play two games, a 3-game road trip up to Anchorage, and then Homer coming down to play two games. And then it was time to get into the state tournament. They went all the way to the final, which they lost in overtime. So they came in second in the state. So when those teams came down to play them, they had to take similar trips down to Ketchikan, either flying Alaska Airlines or driving and going through, the ferry and everything else. So that is craziness to me. Now, the third story I want to tell you about is a high school in Juneau, Alaska, which is the capital of Alaska. They're called Douglas High School. And they, in turn, they're pretty far removed from most of Alaska. They're a little closer to the rest of Alaska than Ketchikan is, but they're still on the panhandle. They were able to play a 17-game season. They're the 9th-ranked team in Alaska. But I just want to share one of their road trips. One of their road trips was to Fairbanks, Alaska. The trip was a 17-hour drive, to get to Fairbanks, Alaska. They had to go across a mountain that was 18,000 feet high. Okay, they had to travel through part of Canada, so they had to take their passports with them to go play a high school soccer game. And then they played. They had a 3-game road trip. They played 2 games against a team in Fairbanks, And then they went over to North Pole and played a game, which is pretty close to Fairbanks, actually. So Juneau Douglas had a great season. They went into the state tournament. They didn't win the state tournament, but they made quite a run. And their travel budget is somewhat similar to Ketchikan, because they're far removed. Juneau is on an island. You can't drive to Juneau. You can't drive to Ketchikan. You either have to take an airplane or a ferry to get to these places. Yet, these schools carry on vibrant high school soccer programs. Now, what I learned about Juneau Douglas and Ketchikan is that the players on the team spend the entire year, the entire calendar year, raising money to play their season, to make this budget happen. That $100,000 isn't just paid for; they have to earn that money. Now, some of it's paid for, but they have all kinds of events. They have like bake sales and car washes just about every weekend. And then they have some big sponsors. Banks in Alaska step in, and Alaska Airlines gives them a discount. When I quoted the price to fly from Ketchikan up to Anchorage of $650 a person, that's the going rate. Alaska Airlines works with them on that. They don't pay it. That's not what they pay. I'm not sure what they pay, but it is not $650 a person. And so I guess I'm kind of mixing up the number of stories here because there's so many of them. But I think I've done enough to get about 4 stories in so far between Ketchikan and Juneau. And now there is a third team in the Panhandle called Sitka. There's only 3 high schools in the Alaska Panhandle that have high school soccer teams. Sitka also has. I'm not going to talk that much about them here because I pinpointed Juneau Douglas and Ketchikan. However, word has it that High School Soccer Champions League Central is going to make a proposal to Juneau, Ketchikan, and Sitka to start the Southeast Alaska Champions League among the 3 of them. Now, they may say, are you kidding? This is craziness. But there will be a proposal made because if these guys are making this kind of sacrifice to join high school soccer, then they deserve to be at least invited to the party of what we're doing. So maybe that'll be nothing. Maybe it'll be something. I don't know. But I tell you, I was able to figure out when I was there what a big deal this is for people. The last thing I want to talk about is Diamond High School in Anchorage, Alaska. They are the state champions last year, 18-0-1. The only team they tied was West Anchorage, their first game of the year, local rival, local derby. And yes, I know what you're thinking. What about an Anchorage-based Champions League? Well, that proposal is going to be made as well. Anchorage is a big city. Anchorage has, and the Anchorage metro area has about 300,000 people or more between Anchorage and the surrounding cities. So Diamond has no problem filling out a schedule. And their farthest game, I looked at their schedule, their farthest game was a half-hour drive away, their farthest road game. Most of the teams came to them. They did take some road trips. They don't have to, up in Anchorage, they don't have to take these road trips. But I found it fascinating that this team in Anchorage called Diamond was ranked number 31 in the nation, 31, and they were number 1 ranked team in Alaska. And I looked into the club soccer scene. There is a club soccer scene in the Anchorage area, so all of these people get the chance to play a lot. It's a lot like what our kids do in Florida and what your kids do in St. Louis and kids in Chattanooga, South Florida, all the places of the Champions League. Diamond shares that, and the Anchorage teams share that. But I just thought it was interesting in a different way, not because of the travel sacrifices that Diamond has to make, but the fact that if I ever said to you, Kevin, listen, let's pick out the top 31 teams in America, I don't think you would have had Anchorage, Alaska on your dance card to be in that group. And yet, there's a team up there that is now. How good are they? I don't know. We'll never know because they only play other teams in Alaska. And are they as good enough? Are they good enough to compete with teams in St. Louis? I mean, there'd only be one way to find out, and that is to get them on the field together. But who knows where the future of the Champions League movement is going? Okay, maybe long after you and I have passed this on to other younger people, maybe this movement will continue to grow, and maybe this movement will have interregional play, a big sponsor that would help travel things happen, and maybe we would see Diamond High School playing the likes of Ladue or somebody like that, or somebody down here in Tampa, Jesuit High School or somebody. But that's not that's not in the near future. But all we can do is take the steps that are in front of us, which are, which are to continue to tell people about the Champions League, continue to encourage interregional play where it can happen, hold fast to our five principles of free to play, merit based, metro based, coach collaboration, and student athlete empowerment. And you might say, well, how can you have Anchorage play St. Louis if it's a metro based competition? Well, the reason for the metro base is we want to save people the money of having to travel because there's too much travel in youth soccer. But if there's a sponsor willing to pay the travel costs, then that takes that problem out of there because, now it's just up to a team to say, no, we don't want to travel just because we don't like traveling, but they won't be able to say, we don't want to travel because it costs too much. If we've got sponsors to pay those costs, that takes that problem off the table. But these are all things for the future. But in the meantime, I thought it was fascinating to learn about this world up in the 49th state called Alaska High School Soccer. Vibrant, games are on TV. I'm looking at right now, Diamond High School's team had 5 games that were televised, including all of the state championship games. The state championship is highly sponsored, highly supported by businesses all over Alaska, and they have to have it on TV because if you're gonna live in a state like Alaska, you can't travel to the games. It's so big, it's so far to get to games. It's unbelievable. And so the next time I'm with you, Kevin, this learning about this far-flung soccer up in Alaska got me to thinking. And you know me, I think I sometimes I tend to think outside the box. And I started thinking about the world of soccer, the world of high school soccer, and I did some research. And the next time I'm with you, I'm going to tell you about what I've learned about what nations in the world, which nations in the world that is, value high school soccer the way we do. And I found out some fascinating information. And I look forward to sharing it with the starting 11 audience.
Wow.
But Kevin, that's what I have for today.
Pardon why I stand up and applaud, Jim. Holy cow. I mean to tell you, baby, it's a heat wave. I'm experiencing a heat wave, and I got goosebumps in St. Louis. That was incredible.
Oh, it was all I could do to interrupt my vacation and start calling these coaches, which I which I which I which I I didn't do it. I was on vacation, and but I am going to reach back to these people. I'm going to tell them about the Champions League. And they might say you're crazy.
Yeah,
This doesn't interest us. Well, that's fine, but they certainly deserve to have the question asked and the offer
absolutely,
made.
man. You know, really, we are all diamonds taking shape.
Yes,
And
yes,
yeah, and the whole the whole way of the sponsor. I think it's about time we have like a sponsor celebration of saying who these people are, because in the real mix, they're putting our movements going, but they're shoveling the energy, the coal, and to fire it up,
yes,
fire the engines up,
yes.
and
It's
that's
interesting. Go ahead, Kevin.
and that sponsor of Select, they are engineered. That ball is engineered. It isn't just throw something together and blow it up. It doesn't lose air. It and when you play up in Alaska, you got to have a great ball. And I'm kind of
Yes,
curious about the Select ball up there. And then you
yes.
got. I like to go to college. Well, when you're coming out of grade school into high school is when you started to try to get to college. You got to understand. You got to bring a suitcase with you. You got to package it. There's more than just going. You know, and we have two of the best. We got NAGO College Planning, and then we have who sponsors powers the platform that we have. United
Yes,
States High School Champions League.com US.
yes. HSCL.
Yeah, baby. And you put that on, and you have it's a work in action. Uh, we're working towards making it magnificent, but it's pretty damn good right now. And so
I'll tell you what.
get up on it, man. Get up on it and enjoy it, and share your experience, because you're part of a movement. We got 6+ going, man. You know,
That's right.
yeah, and the whole idea behind everything is that once people hear about it, oh yeah, but then they have to realize, hey, you have to start the movement. You got to go. And that sponsorship is the easiest and the surest way. But I mean to tell
Well,
you,
we're gonna do something for those sponsors, and you had an idea that we talked about offline, and I think we're gonna make an announcement, Kevin, pretty soon
okay.
uh, about that because you're right on target with what you're saying. Right on target.
And there was a time when you all first started the Champions League down there in Tampa Bay.
Hmm.
Hey, you had to look to your left and right because your pockets were empty. You
Well,
know,
that was Dave Wilson. The story is legendary now. Dave Wilson sponsored the Champions League personally for about 2.5 years.
wow.
Didn't tell anybody.
No, no.
He let on. He's an athletic director, and he
Yeah.
and so he let on that the gate receipts were taking care of everything, and he didn't say anything about it because he believed in the mission so much that he was willing to reach into his own pocket to pay for it. That is the legacy of the Champions League. Is Dave Wilson's pocket, and that'll never be forgotten.
Dave, it's a silent one. I guess he's
Yeah.
very humble. We don't want to embarrass him, but man, oh man, and that's the whole movement. That's the whole thing about the high school champions league. It just isn't about this or that. It's the whole everything. Everything has value, and
Yep.
we are so fortunate. Jim, I'm almost going to tear me eye up, but I missed you, pal. I missed you.
Me too. Me too. Well, I'm back, and I've got more good stories, and we're going to make some more things happen. It's you're doing a great job, Kevin, with the starting 11. I understand you had one of my former players on when I was gone, Ryan Seidel.
Unbelievable. What a class act, man. You did well on that guy.
He's special. I
He
wish I could
is.
take credit.
Yeah.
I wish I could take credit, but
Yeah,
his whole
right.
family, his dad, the
Oh,
whole Clearwater Central Catholic group.
yeah, man.
No, he comes from royalty.
Yeah, yeah. How about that? Yeah. Very humble and spot on. I mean, soccer, the future of high school soccer is in good hands with that cat.
No question. No question. All right, Kev. Well, let's call it a wrap, I guess. And I guess you'll hear from me more coming now that I'm back in the now that I'm back
Well,
in the frame.
well, first of all, take care of the missus. Give us the missus a big hug for us all,
You bet.
and you take care of yourself, man. You could, maybe work out of the sick bed, but you got to take care of that voice. You don't want to wind up like the whale.
All right, Kev. All the
Oh,
best.
all
Take
right,
care.
man. Cheerio. And
Bye.
ladies and gentlemen, this has been the United States High School Champions League starting 11 or thereabouts. So long, Jimmy.